Howdy.
Howdy, how are you?
I'm Kevin.
I have a show opening in Santa Monica at Bergen. Are we supposed to share this table or something?
Whatever you feel like.
How long are they going to be in there?
Until February 12th.
No, because it was by the time they came out.
14? Yeah, about 14.
Are you still the poet target up there?
No, there's like from Shannon's business. Oh yeah, we love it.
We met the same way you and I did. Martha and I have that kind of relationship. We just kind of went with it.
Nice to see you.
I don't feel a little photogenic.
We're going to have to see which two.
What do you think?
Special 2012.
You can read
We
it
are
like-
looking for the well from here. From here.
4 to 6. Oh, why did I think it was later? And then I didn't realize.
We waited long enough, and since we only have a very short time this afternoon, we'll get started shortly. This is a video that was taken at our 10th anniversary celebration in 1990 at the P3 Museum in Tokyo. And the show was a combination show with ARTLIFE being honored as the progenitor of 2 other clones that were in the same show. ARTLIFE at the time had been going for 10 years, and there was a clone from Germany which had been going for 2, and then a clone from Tokyo which had been going for 1. So the publisher from Tokyo invited ARTLIFE, myself, as the progenitor of the form, and he invited the publishers from Germany, and all his Japanese artists were there as well. So shortly, I'll put on a little statement that I made at that opening, which is only 2 or 3 minutes long. And what's more significant about the location of this show is that the P3 Museum is in the heart of downtown Tokyo. It's a very modern concrete, steel, and glass museum, and the whole thing was constructed underground underneath a 600-year-old Buddhist temple. So that's the location of this show that you've been seeing on the screen since you came in. And I was especially honored because the museum had opened only 2 years previously, and the museum was inaugurated with a retrospective of Buckminster Fuller's work. So for me to be standing on a balcony giving a speech to an opening full of people in English and then having it translated into Japanese in this particular spot underneath the 600-year-old Buddhist temple was probably the highlight of my career. So, since we only have a couple of hours this afternoon, there's no way that we could ever cover even the tip of this iceberg. So we're just skimming over some of the highlights. And then we have 3 poets reading. And for the entire second half of the program, we have, looks like, the entire ARTLIFE All-Star team here today. Doug should be over there also later. And so the last half of the program will be questions and answers with myself, with any of the contributors, poets, people I haven't seen in years. Some people showed up today that I'm really shocked to see because people burrow in so deeply and they don't come out. So we'll just start with a short statement from the P3 Museum in Tokyo, and then we'll go on from there.
This is the first 10 years was the first step for ARTLIFE. This show is the first step for that unification. The second step will be more exciting and meaningful. And I think that any future projects that we do should be on a long-term, slow growth basis. Slow growth being much like the growth of a tree. Some weeds grow very fast and are too quickly gone. The slower the growth, the longer the lasting effects. What we're doing should be lasting longer than we all shall live. By combining our talents, we have a positive and meaningful effect on the future of mankind. Thank you very much.
So then the statement was translated into Japanese, and the opening went on for another couple of hours. So since we have such a short time, I figured that we're just skimming the surface today. And first of all, I would like to thank the Contributors Council from the museum for making the acquisition of the ARTLIFE collection possible. Because without them, we might have had to wait another 25 years. So it's wonderful that this group of people took it upon themselves to purchase the entire collection of ARTLIFE for this museum, which now is the only museum that has all 276 issues. So thank you to the Collectors Council and to the museum for making that possible. And hopefully, once word gets out that the collection is here, people will come here to see the issues and not have to drive all the way down to Los Angeles, which has been the case in the past. And also, I'd like to introduce the ARTLIFE contributors, the ARTLIFE All-Stars. Here's Michael Rao, who has been with ARTLIFE since the very first year. Every single assembly session, 275 months. Michael has been there. MB Hanrahan, which everybody knows. MB Hanrahan, who's been painting the town for years and is not slowing down at all. Inez Monguio, who's a fantastic printmaker. Kevin Patrick Sullivan, Poet Laureate, San Luis Obispo. His beautiful wife, Patty. Kevin and Patty have been collaborating on their ARTLIFE editions for years. So Kevin writes the poems, Patty does the visuals, and they are a wonderful collaboration. So much so that they even got married along the way. Liz Schwitters, who's a photographer, who I'm sure you also know. Steve Knopf, our political contributor. One of the most astute political minds in Ventura, which is why he has to hide out. But just for this event, Steve has done a limited edition of 50 little booklets, which are a codex of about 50 of his images from different issues. So after the poets read, be sure to go over and talk to Steve. Then there's Friday Lubina, everybody's favorite poet. And Friday was part of the assembly crew for ARTLIFE for many, many years, so many we can't remember how many. She and Michael are the two longest tenured people that help with the assembly every month. Friday also was writing her poems, putting them in, doing her pages, some collaborating with Michael, and coming back the next day to do the binding so that I could get them out of town first thing Monday morning. Then there's Bob Chianese. Professor Bob, whose resume is longer than my arm, so I won't even get into it. Would just suffice it to say that Bob has been a long-time contributor. And originally he started out as the first and only subscriber to ARTLIFE in Ventura. And then years later, Ray Malocas came into town. And Ray became the second subscriber to ARTLIFE in Ventura. So, besides all the all-stars and all the artists and poets today, we have all the subscribers to ARTLIFE in the same room. So, in honor of that, Ray, Bob, come on up here. We have a little presentation for these two guys.